No, it only leaves the exercise just leaves us vulnerable. We're dancing with the wrong side of the aisle here, and no good can come from it. We should tell our constituents the president is violating his own oath of office. This is an impending constitutional crisis. No amount of legislation is going to make the president do what he doesn't want to do, which is enforce laws he doesn't like. So passing more laws that he doesn't like is only going to exacerbate the problem. Plus, he's not going to sign it, and Harry Reid's not going to take it up. No good can come from this. We should tell our constituents this is the president's problem. He has created it, and we are not going to conform with the president's unconstitutional whims, Garth.
Now, President Obama as well as Marco Rubio are warning Republicans that if they don't do something on this, they're going to suffer at the polls. On the other hand, Senator Cruz has said by sticking to his principles and not pandering, he got 40% of the Hispanic vote. Do you think that message is getting through to House members at all?
Well, yes, I do. I think when you talk to House members, the morning after the election last November, the what shall I call this? The establishment wing of the Republican Party concluded that Mitt Romney would then be president-elect if he just hadn't said those two words, self-deport. And of course that was completely wrong. The election wasn't about immigration. I don't remember the topic coming up between Mitt Romney and Barack Obama in the 3 debates that they had. I do know that Mitt Romney spoke about it some through the nominations process because I'm an Iowan and I'm engaged in that. But the public wasn't talking about it. The commercials were not about immigration. So to pull that one out of the air and blame Romney's loss, or I should say the lack of defeating and unseating an incumbent president on two words and making it an immigration issue, it's unbelievable to me that people would take that kind of bait and let the hook get set as deep as it's been set. And so now those folks that have always advocated for amnesty and open borders, and I'm talking about people also, especially on the Republican side of the aisle, they're reeling this in. They were reeling in the 4 members of the Gang of 8 on that idea that, well, we have to grant amnesty or otherwise we're going to never win a presidential election again. And Barack Obama came to our conference in February of this year and to make the pitch that we need to pass comprehensive immigration reform / amnesty. Of course, he doesn't use that word. And if we don't do that, he said, you'll never win another national election. And he said this, I'm trying to help you. Now what Republican would hire community organizer Barack Obama to be their political consultant? I'd like to know. But it looks to me like a lot of the establishment class within the Republican Party seem to be accepting the political consultation of Barack Obama. Why would he say to us, do this, if he believed that it was good for Republicans? That's the last thing we'd hear out of him. And if you look at the polling, it's really clear. If it's about Hispanic vote, 2 out of 3 Hispanic votes are going to go Democrat. You look at where they stand on pro-life, on same-sex marriage, on bigger government and more taxes and more government services, statistically, by polls, they're liberals. It's true that we know good, solid Hispanic conservatives, and they're the people that I know that work hard and they're natural entrepreneurs and they're best with their family. And there's a Spanish Mass that takes place in the church where Marilyn and I were married at St. Rose of Lima Catholic Church in Denison, Iowa. And we go to Mass there at 9 o'clock a lot of Sunday mornings when we drop down that way instead of our home parish. And it's good to go back home where we got married. And at 11 o'clock, there's a Spanish Mass. And the families come in, their kids are dressed better than our kids are. And they're clean and sharp, and they're strong, faithful Christian people. But when you run the polls, you learn this, that newly arriving immigrants assimilate into the politics of the locale where they arrive. So if they move into a neighborhood in say, Dallas or south side of Chicago or maybe south central LA, and their neighbors are active Democrats, they're going to go to the polls with their neighbors. And they don't know anything about the politics of the United States. They don't know if they're Republicans or Democrats. Neither did the Germans, the Irish, or the Italians when they got here. They all assimilated into the politics of the locale where they arrived. That's why you can go to Boston today and look a long time to find an Irish Catholic Republican. They do exist, not very many of them, and generations of them have had the same politics. And that's why I have neighbors that are 4th generation FDR Democrats. So this isn't mysterious. You just have to look at the world around you, draw common sense conclusions, and understand that the people that are advocating this and saying it's good for Republicans, I don't know that they believe it, but they've got a different agenda. And the agenda that they should think about is this: this Gang of Eights bill, or anything that is amnesty, this broad amnesty act that was pushed out of the Bush administration back in 2005, 6, and part of 7. And I ask this question: who's the beneficiary of this? How is this bill good for Americans? Is there anything in this bill that's good for Americans? And first on Gang of Eight, I said, no, it's not good for any Americans. But once I examined it and really thought it through and looked at it all, I came to this conclusion. There are 3 groups of Americans that do benefit from the Gang of Eights legislation on immigration amnesty out of the Senate. And the first group are the elitists in America, Democrats and Republican elitists who believe somehow they have got a birth or a wealth right to cheap labor to clean their toilets, their houses, and mow their lawn and do their gardens. And so that's one group, the elitists. Second group are Democrat political operators. Democrat political operators. And especially that, but the whole Democrat Party, they know they are beneficiaries of this. This is why they're so aggressive on trying to pass amnesty with citizenship. That's why Chuck Schumer talks about amnesty with citizenship. So we have 3 groups: the elitists, they want cheap labor to be their servant class, and you have Democrat power brokers and those who are beneficiaries of the policies of the Democrat Party or think they are. And the third group are employers of illegals. They have cheap labor, and that bill guarantees them cheap labor for a long, long time to come. Now, you ask any one of those 3 groups, once you identify whether they're an elitist, a Democrat power broker, or whether they're an employer of illegals, do you want those folks to go home? They don't. They oppose the return of people that are here illegally, even voluntarily. That's why they've demagogued it the way they have, and no one has pressed them into a corner to force them to give those answers. Do you want them to go home? It solves our immigration problem. Their answer in their heart of hearts is no, because they're beneficiaries, either wealth, power, or service to their house cleaners and their lawn keepers.